What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Fuel Your Vision podcast with your host, Alex Lombard. And today, our guest is Emil Ekvardt, who's most known for building wealth in the world of online poker and affiliate marketing, then taking that money to help various charities around the world. He and his partner, Erik Bergman, who I also had on the show, launched the company Great.com, which they consider, and I quote, the world's most controversial charity project. Absolutely love that. And the reason being is it's due to generating substantial profits through online monetization activities and donating earnings to various causes and charities. Emil is a life coach to many and helps run the podcast Becoming Great, where he and Erik explore personal growth and challenges of the startup life. Emil, welcome to the show, my man.
Wow. As a host, I wish I would ever, once in my life, make an introduction that clear.
I appreciate that, man.
Such
good.
flow.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
reading, so there is that. But
still, one day I'll get there.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. So how are you doing today, man?
I feel calm now after almost getting lost in the forest.
That's what
on
you
my
were saying.
little warm up before this podcast. Other than that, I'm excited to speak with you. I love being on podcasts.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, I appreciate you for jumping on. And remind me again, I forget where you're at in the world. I know it's overseas from America, but I don't want to say the wrong place. So where are you right now?
Right now, I am in Stockholm, Sweden, in a little suburb about 15 minutes outside of the city. And This place is so beautiful with close to nature and a lake that I have now convinced Erik to buy a big plot here. Super nice plot right next to the water. And his plan is to build a whole little village. You want to build 3 houses on the same plot and then make that kind of a community lifestyle. So
cool.
In 20 years, get back to us and see how that little project is going.
We'll have to do another episode and you guys can show us your community. That'd be pretty cool. Awesome, man. Well, so just to give a little context, so you and I met through Erik, your partner and good friend, and I did an episode with him a little while back, and he was pretty adamant about having you on the show, which was awesome. I love when people get excited about someone they know and kind of naturally edify them. So I was excited to that you wanted to do this, man. I appreciate you again for jumping on here. But let's go ahead and start with, your just story, man. Like, I want you to just, take some time and give some context on, who you are, what you're all about, what you've accomplished, and, where you're kind of going. And then we'll kind of build off of that. So I'll let you take the floor, man, and go from there.
Beautiful. I would say my backstory is, if there is some stereotypical Swede, I'm sure I'm that. As you can see, if you're watching video, I'm blonde, blue eyes, grew up in a house, a yellow villa with a golden retriever, a Volvo, everything. And I guess I was going on a pretty stereotypical direction, but then I fell in love. And it wasn't a woman. It was in online poker. Well, poker in general. And poker had just started to be sent on TV, and it was getting hot. And now it came to the internet. So I guess it was 2005, 2008, somewhere around that. I was 16 when poker really became something that everybody did. Everybody tried to play. And I played with some friends at the home games for just cents and pennies. And it turned out I was good at it. I had all the things that naturally that makes you good at the game, which is I was good at math. I was good at reading people psychologically. I liked strategy. And for some reason, the friends I was playing with, they didn't want to keep playing when I won their money. So instead, I turned my eyes to a place where there is action 24/7, which is the internet. So when I was 17, the only thing I wanted for my birthday was to get some money to play for online, because I was underage. So I begged and I begged and I begged my mom to give me $30 to play for online. And she did. And everything I have today is from those $30. Like
Wow.
my apartment, and yeah. And since I started playing online, that I have never been so excited about anything in my life. This game was everything I was good at. It was exciting, it was fast.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get better, and I was thinking, how can I get good over a long time? Like, I knew that this is what I'm gonna do. School didn't seem important to me at all anymore. I had a deep conviction that poker is what I should do.
That's crazy, man. And you said you were 17 when you really started to get into it.
Yeah, yeah, 17. It was the second last year of, I think we call it college, when you're 16 to 18.
Okay.
And I remember graduation was the happiest day in my entire life, because now there was nothing in the way between me and being able to play as much poker as I wanted. So the first day after graduation, everybody was having fun and partying. I rented an office in Stockholm and invited 5 friends, and we were playing together and had a poker office. We were 5 guys on 8 square meters. And the first month at the graduation, I played 180,000 hands of online poker. So
Oh my
that
gosh.
is 18 hours a day on average on 9 tables at the same time.
Oh my gosh. So you're playing on 9 tables at the same time. So almost acting as
Yeah,
like 9 people playing poker, but it's all you.
exactly. Yeah.
Dude, that is crazy. And that was all with for money too, right? There was actual money on the line.
Oh, yeah. So
Wow.
poker was easiest in the beginning when no one knew how to play. So, I want to put a big disclaimer here. If you hear this and you get excited about poker and think maybe I should make some money, it's unfortunately too late. So right now, everybody is so good that they have pretty much solved what is optimal poker.
Mm,
But back then, no one knew what they were doing. So I could come in and sort of be a winner from just the beginning.
yeah. Wow. That's crazy. And so this was all done online. So you're going to online poker websites and you're like logging in or how do you do it where you play with like 9 hands? Like how do you even do that? How does that work?
Yeah, exactly. So I was playing on many different clients at the same time. So you had back then Full Tilt Poker, Poker Stars, all of those clients, and yeah, just looking for the best games I could find on all the different poker sites.
Okay.
But
Okay.
somehow I knew back then that, okay, this is not going to last forever. I kind
Mm,
of stumbled on something that I could make fairly good money on quickly. And I told
yeah.
myself, I will make the best out of this, because when this is over, I don't want to look back and say, I
Yeah.
could have done that better. So I spent between 12 and 15 hours per day, 7 days per week for 7 years. Like, I didn't do anything else. And I thought it was going to last 5 years, and it lasted about 7. But looking back
Wow.
at it now, I'm so happy because I really took that opportunity, which now allows me more freedom where I am
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, why did you like? That's interesting. You said that you thought it was going to last 5 and it lasted 7. So let's talk about that. So, what made you think that? I mean, if you're a 17-year-old kid getting started in this poker space, you realize you're really good. You're at the point where you're playing 9 hands, game at one time. I mean, and you're obviously starting to win. You're making money. You realize you have a skill set here and a passion. Why did you think that it would end in 5 years? Like, what was that all about?
Because before the internet, poker was, no one was really learning, because everybody was just sitting, playing in their home games, playing the same way that they have always done. And if you play live poker, you play maybe 20 hands an hour. I played 400 hands an hour. And now people started putting in tutorials on internet, and people started to get better. And even the bad players started to get better. So I saw that 2 things were going to happen. Three bad things were going to happen to poker. First, the pros are going to get a lot better. So it becomes
Yeah.
very, very hard to survive against the sharks. Sharks are good players. And then the fishes are also going to be better. Because when it's obvious out there what the biggest mistakes are, even the bad players are going to stop doing them. And then you have less room to exploit people.
Mm,
And thirdly, I suspected regulations would start coming that would start making the market much worse.
Mm,
So, and that happened 2009. The US shut down poker, so no one in
yeah.
America is allowed to play online.
Right. Yeah. I think then, and then, and just, I think I might be wrong in this, but I think last year they just reopened it. I think we are allowed to play now. I could be wrong in that, but I know we're able to do some things with online betting. I don't know specifically about poker, but I'm almost
Yeah,
positive we are able to now. But yeah, you're right, man. That was a big thing. I remember, I had, some family friends that were really into the online poker space, and they were pretty distraught when that happened, living out here in
yeah.
America, and they took that down. So that's crazy, man. So take us on that journey, that 7-year journey. So you started, like you said, around 17, and you go for 7 years. You're playing all day, every day. You're just playing poker online. You sound like you're doing pretty well with it. What, I guess, like, in your own words, like, what level did you get to? I know, like, when I kind of asked a similar question to Eric, and he was saying that, he actually did end up going, technically professional, and it was like his full-time income, and so I guess, like, from your own words, man, what kind of happened in that time, that 7-year time period?
Are you familiar with soccer?
Yeah.
Different teams and stuff. So if the best player in the entire world is Barcelona, then I would say my skill level was maybe top 4 French team, something like that.
Wow.
So sometimes I played in deep in the Champions League tournaments. Most of the time I was somewhere a really good team, but not world class.
Yeah. Okay. And so you played on a team. That's like how it worked, or you weren't just solo?
No, no, that was just a metaphor to
An analogy.
compare
Okay. Gotcha.
skill levels. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That's awesome, man. Very cool. And so then did you get to a point, like, when you were at your peak with this, was it like your main source of income? Like, is that the main thing you were doing?
May I ask you a quick sidetrack question first?
Ask me. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel so I feel so seen by your curiosity.
Okay.
It feels like you have so many questions in your head. So, and I think your listener skills is something that is very needed in the world. So if you would have any advice for someone that wants to be a better listener, someone that wants to know, how can I have as many questions in my head as
Yeah.
Alex does? How can they think?
Okay. Expand.
Now I'm curious. I want to know your answer.
So, okay, rephrase it, I guess. I don't fully understand.
If someone is listening and say, I want to be as good in conversations as Alex is,
Yeah.
I want to where does he get all think? How can someone improve their questions and conversation skills?
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's a good question. So I would say the main thing, man, is doing research. You know what I mean? Like, I went and actually, like, looked into who you were, and
Mm,
looked at, what you're doing, and read things online about you, and looked at your different social channels. And it's like, so I was able to naturally create questions around topics that I know you're involved with, but also just personally, and this is a big, thing with the show, is they're questions based off things that I'm actually generally curious about. You know what
mm,
I mean? Versus, like, just your generic questions that you ask every guest. Like, for me in my show, I don't ever, there's only 2 questions I ask every single guest, which I get to at the end. But the rest of the interview that I do with everybody, it's all just organic, man. It's all based off that individual and the world that they're in, and what they're known for, and what they're passionate about, and things that I'm curious about, so I don't have like a set, lot of shows, they'll have like 10 questions that they ask every single solitary guest, versus, like, with me, it's like I actually go and look into it, who I'm interviewing, and seeing a little bit about who they are, what they're doing, and things that are curious to me. So yeah, man, I would say do research.
So what I'm hearing then is that, and what I'm feeling as well is that you are finding things about my biggest passions that you are generally interested in, and that
Exactly.
makes
Yeah.
me feel very seen.
Yeah.
That's a
That's a
superpower, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I'm glad that we tapped into this space. That's an interesting side note, if you will, which is
Hmm.
cool. Appreciate that.
So where were we? Sorry, I go on
No, you're
sidetrack
good.
sometimes.
No worries, man. No worries. So I was basically just asking, like, in terms of, like, your poker career, when you were doing
Hmm.
that, was it like, I'm trying to get like a scope of like the level you were playing at. Like, so you gave us like an analogy in terms of like where you were kind of like ranked. But in terms of just like financials, you know, you don't have to say certain amounts if you don't want, but like just overall, like, was this like a your mainstream of income? Were you like pretty successful, like overall, like considered wealthy with it? You know, was it just a side thing that you did for a long time? Like, kind of give us a little perspective, you know, in that world.
I made more money than most people I knew, including grown-ups, from when I was 18. And I started having big swings early as well, meaning I was winning or losing every time I played. Every day I played, I went plus or minus $20,000, $30,000.
Wow.
No, no. Yeah, $20,000, $30,000 for the first years when there were more higher stakes online. And I wasn't trained
Yeah.
for that. So
Yeah.
one of the bigger gifts poker gave me, of course, except for the money to have more freedom now, is that I was forced to develop a strong interest for how do I deal with my emotions and how do I deal with adversity. And
Mm.
that is the interest that sparked an interest that led me down learning about health, learning about how can I improve my mental performance, how can I increase my emotional intelligence, and those skills I now use as a life coach.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's fascinating. So you took the lessons you learned from your 7 years in the poker space, and now you apply those lessons into your own life, but then also into the lives of the ones that you coach and mentor. That's really cool, dude.
Exactly.
That's really sweet. So you said you're losing and gaining between 20 and 30K a day. That's crazy. So how does someone deal with that? Like, like, okay, you're playing and you go down 30 grand, you know, like what is going through your head? What's happening? Like what goes on in your mind when that happens?
So I wasn't trained to handle swings like that. No one is trained to handle swings like that. It's so unnatural for us. And that is something I have realized recently. I just took that for granted because it was my whole life.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything else. But if you look back at us in Paleolithic times, we didn't lose things so often, I think. Maybe you lost a friend to a tiger or like you lost something here every now and then, but I had big losses 20, 30 times a day. And I didn't have any tools to deal with it. So what I did as a kid was that I shut off my emotions completely. And I wanted to make myself into a robot. I didn't
Mm,
celebrate victories because then I wouldn't mourn losses as much. I trained myself to only see the logical decisions in each hand and not think about, not be in my emotions. For if I'm playing 9 tables at the same time, all the thoughts I have in my head that are saying where I feel sorry for myself, or if I tune into an emotion that says I'm really suffering right now, all of that is time I don't spend analyzing my opponents or making correct decisions, and it will be very expensive. So I either trained myself or naturally became, because of these situations, very numb
mm,
emotionally. I trained myself to have emotions and difficulties just as water. They wouldn't get into me.
yeah. Wouldn't affect you.
Yeah, they wouldn't affect me. And that was useful for then. And at the same time, that was a huge problem later, where because that made me lose the ability to relate to people. It
Mm,
made me lose my contact with my intuition in other areas than poker. It made me, I think, store a lot of those things in my body instead of processing it. So I started having a lot of physical pains and physical problems, starting getting back pains, neck pains, um, anxiety, depression, because I
mm.
wasn't processing. I was just taking it in.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting, man. I could definitely see that. And it's interesting how you said that it served you in that world of poker, but it does not serve you in
Mm.
any other space. You know, like you said, with like relationships, your health, you know, like everything else that you do. And that makes sense, you know, and it makes sense. And I'm curious. I'd be curious if there's other players out there that are in that mode right now. If they listen to this and they're like, "Wow, that's me." Like I've made a bunch and lost a bunch, but I've been able to train myself not to feel it. That'd be cool for them to hear this and then, start changing some things up in their life. So that's
Mm.
cool, man. So what ended up happening at the 7-year mark? So you said it lasted 7 years. Why do you say that? Like what happened afterwards? Or what
Because
happened up to that point, I guess?
I didn't take a break for 7 years. I think my longest break was 2-week vacation or something. And then the poker market had become so much colder that I feel like, okay, now it makes sense that I can actually take a longer break. So I went on a road trip on my own to the US for 3 months. And then I moved to Berlin and lived there for a year and didn't work. I only studied personal development, social skills, um, spirituality, which for me means anything that has to do with my inner world, how I deal with my thoughts, emotions, belief systems.
Mm. Okay. And so you, at the 7-year mark, as you said, you decided to go ahead and take a break. Did you end up coming back into the poker space? And if so, like, did you go as hard as you did before, or was it never the same after that?
I tried to, but it was never the same
Mm.
because the passion I felt from poker was so intense. Like, I think working as hard as I did, if it's for something that you haven't really chosen, that is stress. But if you work so hard for something that you love more than anything else, I was just playing. It didn't wear me down very much.
Mm.
But when I got back, the passion was gone because I had changed so much. All my beliefs about the world, the way I understood myself, the way I was thinking was different. So there was no passion left. So I played for about 2 more years because I could still make decent money from it, and I didn't really know what else to do.
Yeah.
But I was suffering for 2 years when I was playing compared to
Mm.
before when it was pure fun.
Yeah.
And that is when
Interesting.
I met Erik.
That was my next question. So, okay. So
Uh-huh.
Erik came in after you came back from your trip, you were playing for 2 more years, and then you were in a, pretty low space, and then you ended up meeting Erik. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about Erik, your guys' partnership, and then we'll kind of start moving into some other areas here.
Beautiful. Yeah, me and Erik met each other through poker. So me and the guys in the poker office here in Stockholm, we
Yeah.
had the biggest poker blog in Sweden. So Erik was in reading that poker blog, and it was an open blog, so anyone could post.
Yeah.
So he was up visiting me in Stockholm a couple of times, and I think we were 21. We were in a tournament in Italy together, and he had lost money that trip, and he was feeling a bit down. And he said, guys, I'm gonna stop playing poker. I'm gonna go into business. And we're like, okay, man, it's gonna, He said, no, I'm serious. I'm gonna build a company. And then we didn't see each other for 5 or 6 years. And while I was playing, he was doing a bit more of a lucrative path, building the company Catena Media, and got about 50 million euros for his shares when
Yeah.
the company went public. So I hadn't seen him from 6 years. And I was in Malta, where he lived, to play a poker tournament. And this is a very, very random event. And I think it's interesting how these huge coincidences can totally change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
So I was late to the tournament. I was taking too long to eat dinners. I was running through the lobby because if I'm late, I'm starting to lose money. And I had come far in the tournament. So it would be
Yeah.
very expensive for me to be late. So I was running fastest speed through the lobby. And then I hear a voice, Emil. Oh, it's Erik, I see him. And I assume he is, of course, here to play the tournament. And he could only have seen me if he would have been in the specific place in the registration line at the exact second that I came running through the lobby.
Yeah.
And I walked up to him. Oh, Erik, good to see you. I got to run, man. And then it was like a voice inside me said, do you want to have dinner? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so we had dinner that night. And he was in the middle of taking Catena public. And he was super stressed and very close to burnout. And I had just lived a year in Berlin, and I had been meditating 1 hour per day for a whole year and didn't work. So I had a lot of peace, but no purpose. He felt a lot of purpose, but no peace.
Oh, wow.
So we were a very good match to each other, that he became my business coach and I became his life coach because I had studied personal development and all those topics for
Yeah.
almost 3 years at that point. So yeah, we had dinner, talked all night. He came back for breakfast the next day, and since then he has been one of my closest friends, and we are building now great.com together.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. What an awesome story. That's so cool. So let's talk about great. We spent a lot of time with this and, with Eric. And I just think it's such a cool project, man. You guys are doing, it's like you said, like you put it, a controversial, charity in a sense, which is really cool. Captures the people's attention. So share a little bit about that. Tell us again, in your own words, what is great.com? What is it all about? Why'd you guys start it? Kind of dive in that world.
Like I said, Eric made 50 million euros when he took Catena public. And so he doesn't need to work anymore for money, but he is an entrepreneur out in his fingertips. I'm sure if you heard the last episode, and he want to spend his time doing something meaningful. So the idea with Great is to build the same company again that he already built, but this time give away 100% of the profits. And we also want to make the company in a way so it's a people first organization where the employees will want to work there for a really long time because they have freedom. It's a completely remote organization because the work and the work is exciting and the purpose of the organization is meaningful.
Mm. That's really cool. So what exactly, so give the audience some context on what it actually is. Like what is the company's like, main focus, like day to day, like what are you guys actually doing with it?
So Great will move money from the casino industry to the charity industry focused on reducing the effects of climate change. And casino and charity sounds like it's two things that doesn't go together.
Yeah.
So this is the logic. Um, Great will work as similar to how hotels.com would work for hotels. Great would be an affiliate for casinos. So if you wanted to play casino and you Google um, casino you're from Arizona, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Casino Arizona. So if you press the top hit in Google, then you will go in there, you might lose some money, and then that money will go to the owners of those casinos that might buy, my assumption, cars and planes and boats for that money. The value that Great will give is that if you instead press on great.com as your link, if we reach that high up on Google, then that money will go instead of to owners, it will go to reducing uh, carbon dioxide in the air.
Mm.
And that is also money that we take away that would otherwise be used to do marketing for casino. So we don't want to like do damage in the casino space to help some other place. I think what Great can do is actually to reduce the negative effects of gambling addiction, for example, by having very good services that help people that get into problem with gambling, but also that we take money out of the industry as a whole so it becomes
Mm.
smaller.
Oh, interesting, man. Interesting. So you mentioned like affiliate, and I think Eric kind of talked about this too. So
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, what you guys are doing is you're acting as affiliates to these online, casinos. And when people go through your site and I might get this wrong, but help me out here if I do. But essentially, they would go to if they go and play at the casino and they lose the money that some of that money is going to go to you guys as affiliates and it goes into Great. And then you guys are using that money to then go and do the things that you just kind of mentioned. Is that right?
Exactly like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Got it. Got it. Yeah, man. No, it's so interesting, dude. It's so interesting because it's such a, like the last conversation I had too with Eric, he was saying how, he was kind of talking about how, a lot of times people think, and I loved this, and I think, I'm curious your thoughts on it too, but he was saying how, people think that they have to, that their purpose they have to go out there and they got to just give all their time and all their money and all their hard work and go work on, building up these charities or, helping people and, in other countries and things like that. And although that stuff is obviously good and, a lot of, I've done mission work before and it teaches, you more about you than it even does, about other people and other cultures. But the thing that he talked about, and I think is so cool with what you guys are doing, is he's like, what I realized by going and doing that is that is not my skill set. What I'm good at is what Great's doing. I'm good at in the casino world, the poker playing world. I'm good at, mastering that space. And so I'm going to put all my attention and resources to that, and then basically take my winnings and my profits, and instead of, serving myself, I'm going to use that money to go serve other people. And so I just think that's really, really cool, because it's so different. It's a different approach. It's a different outlook on, how you are impacting the world.
For sure. So the best thing I could have done when I was young as a poker player would probably be to play as much poker as possible, and then give that to the people in the world that are the best at using it to reduce suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man.
And
That's
that's the
so
power
cool.
of money. It's so flexible. You don't
Yep.
have to, you can pinpoint, and there are a lot of good sites now that are comparing different charities and finds the outstanding giving opportunities. Givewell.org is an excellent one if you want to help reduce human suffering.
Mm,
And then you can go and you can see which is the top ranked one each year. Me, myself, my heart charity question is animal welfare. So
mm,
I go into animal charity evaluators. Did I get that right? And I picked the top cause there. This year it was an organization called the Albert Schweitzer Foundation, and they are helping improving the life for farm animals.
mm.
So
That's
whatever
really cool.
your interest is, if you take some time to research which is the top cause, and then
Yeah.
focus just a little bit of your income there, then that is going to do so much difference over a lifetime.
Yeah.
Every person, even with a very normal income in Sweden or America, can easily save hundreds of lives in their lifetime just by donating 1%, for example, of their income each month.
Mm.
Even less will save many lives over a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that aspect of it too, is it's not like you guys are you're helping just one specific cause. It's like you have an array of different things, different, things that need attention in the world, in a variety of different areas and industries and, niches, and people can come in and really, help and benefit those things that they feel called to do. Like you said, yours is with animals. So that's really awesome, man. So let's talk about your guys's your podcast a little bit. So give the audience a little bit of context
Yes.
on that. What you guys are all about. I know reading about it, it sounded like something that you were definitely pretty involved with and excited about. But the Becoming Great podcast, share a little bit of thoughts on that.
All right. What I realized in this too, I love learning, right? And before that, I was reading so many books and I was watching YouTube all day long. But what I realized just hyper accelerates my learning, and I think all listeners can learn from this, is when I get to teach something myself,
Yeah.
because that is really causing me to have to deeply understand a topic. So doing the becominggreat.com podcast, which is a podcast for any entrepreneur who wants to make their lives or the world better through entrepreneurship. Doing that podcast or doing my YouTube channel, that has helped me grow so much. So if you're listening to this and you love to learn, try to teach, write something, talk out loud. You don't have to show it to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But we've done 60 episodes now. And in this year, most of my development comes from me and Erik taking personal development concepts we have read about and then putting that into our own stories. We have been taking business concepts and we have been putting that into the experiences we're having with Great. And by doing that, we are reinforcing it so much in our minds. And it also becomes a real example for the person listening that we are speaking from experience. We're only talking about things that we are trying and doing ourselves.
Mm. Yeah, that's really cool. And I know like the podcast too, you guys are showing kind of like the behind the scenes, of just like the journey itself, which is
Mm-hmm.
something I think is just like really, really cool. I try to do that a lot with my brand as well. It's you guys are sharing, the ups and the downs and the trials and the tribulations and things like that along the way, which is really cool, man. So you said you guys have done did you say 6 episodes is where you're at?
60. I think we
60.
recorded 70. Yeah. We
Wow.
release one episode per week, and we have just made a major upgrade. So we built a podcast studio in Erik's new house. So now
Oh,
it's
wow.
filmed in really nice quality. We have a sound technician. So we have really raised the level of the production from
Yeah,
a somewhat advanced hobby thing to now it's being something that is really professional.
that is so cool. Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's the next phase for me as well. Getting that studio. That's really sweet. Um,
Uh,
cool. So let's talk a little bit about your coaching too, man. I noticed that you have an option for people to work one-on-one with you.
mm,
Walk us through that. What exactly is that all about?
what it's about depends on the needs of the person. So I'm very flexible as a coach, and my job is to ask questions. I ask what is the outcome the person is desiring, and then I help them getting to their own answers. Because I feel it's so much more powerful when someone comes up from with an idea that comes from within them, compared to if I tell someone something. So it very much depends from person to person.
Okay. And so the goal of it basically is like a life coach a good term? Like would you describe it as that?
I would say so. Life coach, freedom coach. My core passions are emotional intelligence, health, how to live a happy life, how to have
Mm,
fun in everything we do. How can we follow our excitement more? How can we feel
yeah.
better, be more happy? How can we think more long term?
Mm,
So all of those core interests I have. I love communication as well. That is one deep core interest I have. So um, I often talk a lot about relationships, and something I really feel help, especially other men, is more understanding of how they can build trust in relationships with the person they're dating.
mm. Okay. That's really cool. So you kind of help people with like the full circle almost of life, kind of like the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the relationship.
Exactly. I think my strength is that I'm quite well rounded in all of
Mm,
those topics, and I go into where the suffering is.
yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. Are you a fan of Tony Robbins by chance?
I am, for
Okay,
sure.
I figured.
He's
I
super
figured.
cool.
Yeah, he's a big
He's super
mentor of
cool.
mine too. So,
Mm,
cool, man. Very cool. Awesome, dude. So let me. I wanna kind of get to the end here, man. I appreciate your time on here. Like I mentioned at the beginning, there's two questions that I ask every single guest on here. The very first one is, how would you define what a visionary is?
to me, a visionary is someone that can look out into the world, see what is missing, and then
Mm,
embody those qualities themselves.
wow.
Because I think when I've heard the word visionary, because I got this question from you before, right? When I heard that word, I feel a little bit small, I think, because I don't have this super grand vision. Does that mean that I'm not a visionary? And I would love for people to think of it in a little bit more easy way. So if I have a vision that I would like the world to be maybe a bit kinder, maybe I would like to see more honesty from politicians. If I'm then a visionary, can I be that in every encounter that I have in my life? Can honesty and kindness be values of mine? And
Mm.
then you are the change you want to see in the world. You are what's missing. And that to me is a visionary.
Very well said, man. Interesting perspective too. I love it. Very cool. So, second question for you, my man. Last question here. How does someone, in your words, discover their own purpose in life?
It's funny because when I heard those questions, I said, my answer to these is so similar because I think it's so common to mix up your purpose with a job or a vocation. And then if you're not in a job that you like, it feels like, am I missing my purpose here? So to me, a purpose is chosen. It's not what you do. So my purpose, for example, is the skills, again, that I want to see more of in the world. I really value honesty. I value kindness. I value to think long term. I value following your excitement to do things that you think are fun. So if I'm on my purpose, I ask myself, am I doing those things? How often? Where can I do it more? that to me is the road of my purpose. And the more I'm doing those things in everyday encounters, the more I feel my purpose. It's not a job for me.
Mm. Very cool, man. I love that. Again, well said. Well said. Awesome, bro. Awesome. So, where can people find you? Anyone listening to this, watching this, that wants to connect more with you, learn more about what you're doing with Great, learn more about what you do with your podcast. What's just the best way for people to discover you online?
All right. I would, depending on what medium you prefer, for podcasts, search for the becominggreat.com podcast. You can find it on YouTube in all podcast apps. I have an Instagram that is emil.ekvardt, first name, last name. I have a YouTube channel named What's Missing, and I have a website called www.whatsmissing.com.
Perfect. And we'll link all those below too, so people can have easy access to it. Emil, thank you so much, my man. This was an awesome, awesome interview. You're a very, very inspiring, well-spoken individual. I'm glad to have you on here. So again, appreciate it. And for all those, listening and watching, make sure you give a thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube and iTunes, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya.